They never thought it was possible. And they've also got one of their other siblings now moving in with them, and the family's back together. And like that just moves me. Like that is just amazing that I was able to support them through that. And when they came to me, they said, I don't think we can buy a property. And so we went through the numbers and it took a little bit of time. She was a referral through one of my daughter's dance schools. After 20 years, she'd just given up. She thought she could never buy a property. So the mother and the daughter teamed up and they were able to buy a property. So it's just so rewarding. And yeah, like for them to be able to have something that's their little haven.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good day. This is the Connect Unplugged podcast number 54. Can't believe we're at 54 with myself and Kallum. And today we are really, really excited because we have absolute trailblazer in the coaching world with a really, really important niche. And that is Louise Syphers, who's joining us all the way from Melbourne, Victoria. And good morning. And I'll let Kallum share with the world a little bit more about you and what we will be discussing today.
Thanks, Connor. Today on the Unplugged podcast, we are joined by Louise Syphers, the founder and director of the Abundance and Beyond. For over 20 years, Lou has been guiding women towards financial independence, property ownership, and lasting security. She brings a rare combination of deep industry expertise and genuine heart, helping clients navigate everything from refinancing and debt consolidation to building wealth and creating the life they truly want. She's also a best-selling author, a passionate advocate for women in business, and the head coach at She Evolved Collective, where she mentors coaches and supports women through some of life's biggest transitions. Lou's own story is one of courage, vision, and empowerment. And today, she's here to share the lessons, insights, and strategies that can help you go beyond what you thought was possible. Lou, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
And thanks for having me. Lovely to be here.
Absolutely. So I loved what Kallum read about you. And one thing that sort of pricked my ears up was your own personal journey through empowerment. And the word that really drew me in was the word courage. So right now you make a massive difference in the world, working with women, I guess, in some way, shape or form, giving them their life and power back in their lives. Where did that start from you? You know, as a 6-year-old on the playground, were you thinking, hey, this is what I want to do in my life? How did you get into this industry and where did you start from?
Such a good question. So I wasn't 6-year-old. But yeah, I started off as my first actual role was a dental nurse. And I really loved that role because it was an amazing way to get an idea of how small business runs. And then I decided to go on and do pharmaceutical repping. And I loved that as well. That was amazing to be able to go and, meet with doctors and dentists and, really talk about what they need for their clients. And then I went into the mortgage space through a friend who said, you should come and work for me. We work with a lot of doctors and dentists. And that was in 2000. And at that time, I was looking for something different. And yeah, got into the mortgage space within a financial planning company and was there for many, many years. But I always found when I was in that space, there was like a really not a lovely safe space for women to be able to really share what they're going through. And then when I decided to leave in 2019, I realized that there was a space that could be, held for these women when I attract a lot of women going through divorce and separation and then support them through new beginnings.
Is this in the mortgage?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the mortgage space. And so, yeah, I really wanted to be able to have somewhere for women to come to have those authentic, safe conversations. And that's where my passion started in about 2019. When I started my own business, when I left the corporate space and then set up my own business in 2020. So, yeah, so it's been a long journey, a lot of sales along the way, but a lot of really knowing about where I wanted to get to, which was exciting. And I too, my mum and dad split up very young. So I had that, experience of women, having to go out on their own and mum didn't have a lot of money and, how she was going to buy a house. So it probably does stem from back there, actually.
Wow. So you were in the mortgage space for 19 years after being a dental nurse. So we have dental nurse, pharmaceutical rep, and then mortgage industry for 19 years.
Yep.
And through that time, I would imagine you would be doing a lot of, maybe you weren't aware that you were coaching, but you were helping women and
Yes.
men, I guess, at that point. But there was something about the people who were reaching out to you. Were they often in a place of despair, whether I have to remortgage my house, or I've just been through a divorce or separation and I don't have much, and how can I afford an apartment, a house? Is, is that where the emotional side started to draw it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I was in the corporate space, I just started attracting, that sort of space as well, women going through divorce. Um, and I just found that these women need time. I've now got an office, which is amazing. So they can come in here with me, sit and go through it. Cause often they're coming to me when it's very raw, when it's just, just the beginning of their journey going through
Correct.
the separation. So, my passion is that it's a safe space. They can share what they're really dealing with, because a lot of women are leaving these relationships with not having a lot. They thought they might have more, or
Mm.
not having any idea where their finances are. So, like I have women coming to me and we have to go through their online banking. They've never really looked at online banking because the partner's always done everything.
Mhm.
So we really start at the what they've got, and then plan how they're going to get to the finish line. So, sometimes these women aren't working or only working part time. They may need to go back to work. Are they able to get funds from family to help them out to get to the finish line? So there's a lot of discovery together initially, and building their confidence up is so important.
Well, I was just thinking that I would imagine the practical maths skills would be important. Cal and I have 20 or 32, 3 now, 4 combined years in the
Yep.
in wellness and psychology space. Bella, can you unpack a little bit more about mindset? Because I would imagine these women would be coming to you, that you give them direction on a financial level, but is it really the mindset underneath that you probably start, I guess, installing along the way that really
Yep.
makes the biggest difference, that moves the needle the most in the long run? Hey, Cal.
Absolutely. And that's where I'm a coach with She Evolve Collective. I can support these women
Mm,
because we all have stories around money, for one.
mm.
And we all have stories about when big events happen. We take on things, we make things mean things. Um, so there's a lot of stories going on in these women's head.
Mm.
And there's a lot of noise from others about you should do this, you should do that, you can't do this, you can do this. So
There's a lot of information out there,
there's a
and
lot of
when
information.
when you start
And
looking, the algorithms know it, and
yes,
then every expert is on your feed.
exactly, exactly. And like that's all fine, but I like to try and like bring it in, keep it simple, and really get to the core of what they're focused on and where they want to get to. Where it gets particularly hard is when women have young children. They are in the process of working out what they're going to do. They've got these little kids. A lot of the time they can't go to work, back to work in the capacity that they probably need to. So then we work out, okay, it may not be now where you want to get to. So we'll plan 2, 3, 4 years on to get to them, to the finish line of buying a property. So my goal is that a woman can keep the family home, but
Mm,
that's not always possible.
mm,
Also, they may be able to buy an investment property rather than buying, their own home right now.
mhm,
And the other area that I really concentrate on, which is such a missing in the market, I think, and I'm not a financial planner, but buying property in super, if it's done correctly, is a great benefit. So, I sometimes see women in their 40s and 50s that might have 3 or 400,000 in their super, and they can potentially buy an investment property. They can't live in it, but they can buy something and leverage. The goal with buying in super is when you borrow, obviously you can get a bigger asset than just sitting on cash.
mm.
So I do a lot around that. I've done it myself. I've bought super fund properties twice. So it can be done very well, or it can be done very poorly, unfortunately, that space. But it is a really good space to, educate women on and potentially buying something down the track in this super fund.
I think that's put my hand up. I think well, not I think, I know we've done that ourselves down here in Batemans Bay, and it's
Yep.
been a good decision for us to do that. Uh, so I think what I've picked up from that. Hey, Cal, how you doing? You good?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, I think I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and
Yep.
clear.
You
You're
can.
nice. You're nice. So what I guess in the mortgage space, the long game is really important. I would imagine when you first talk to some of your clients, the, the emotion would still be quite raw. And when we feel emotion, as all of us three know, and for the listeners, when we feel emotion, it's very hard to see the forest through the trees because we're associated in our emotion. And when you are then saying, hey, let's look long term, I would imagine that would be quite a challenge for some people. When you're feeling an emotion and someone says, you would be much more um, evolved in how you would say this, but effectively, hey, let's look at the long term. The future is bright, and there will be a silver lining. How do you help someone from, I guess, focusing on everything that has gone wrong? They're highly emotional. I'm not necessarily saying that they're acting emotional, but on the inside, there's
Yes,
a lot going
absolutely.
on.
Yeah.
What? How do you have someone, I guess, unplug from that and all of a sudden shift and look long term and have something to look forward to?
Yeah, I love this question. So, yes, so often when we have women coming in, it's very raw. So, we're really just having a discovery call about what they know about their finances initially, because there's not this vision of long term because they're not in that space to do that right now.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So sometimes we're really just discovering the first call is just discovering what they know they've got or what they haven't got. And then I work in sometimes with their lawyer in terms of timeframes of where they need to get to for settlement and things like that. But it really depends on the individual. Like I have some women coming into me, they know exactly where they want to get to. So that's fine. We can obviously look long term. But a lot of women, I know with my mum, she was so, distraught by the whole thing. It took her many, many years to get to the finish line. So we just slowly work away and chip away at what they want to, where they want to get to. Um, and just really educate them on, the first important thing is well, how much money have they got from a deposit? If they're selling their family home, what are they going to have left over in their own hands? So they're the sort of first things that we look at. And then we talk about, sometimes they're staying in that family home for a period of time. But see, I have a lot of women coming to me and they need to get straight out of the family home. So they just need to find a rental property. So I'll just refer them to some agents I know in the area because I just love referring everyone to everyone.
Yeah.
Just to support them through that. Um, and then, they might just say, look, Lou, I just really want to have a conversation with you today just to get a bit of an understanding of how you can support me. And then they might come back to me 2, 3, 4 months, depending on, because a lot of the time, as we all know with these settlement periods, it can take 12 to 18 months before
Sure.
it's not quick. So often it's, it could be a few months in between when we regroup again. And then they often sometimes, go into the courts and then they come back and go, oh, look, he wants more, or I'm not going to get as much. So then we redo the figures.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of planning, but it's really rewarding planning for, our clients to get that reassurance of where they can get to. And often, it's not always what they're wanting, but we just guide them through where they can get to. And, and then when they're ready to have those long-term conversations, we'll have those long-term conversations with
Yeah.
them. Yeah, but it is very different for each client. But it's just I think now I think the statistics say like 1 in 10 are divorced. Like so statistics are quite high when we look at there's the ratio of what's
Marriages,
happening.
1 in
Yes,
10.
yeah,
I thought it was higher.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Way higher.
yeah. Is it? Oh, I thought it was 1 in 10. It must have.
So,
Thought it was
so
about 10%.
Cal?
it's highly possible. I just maybe I catch a headline here and there and see that it looks
Yeah, that's
appears like
clickbait.
high. I thought it was almost 40.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
yeah, I thought it was almost 40. But I mean, a lot of what you're talking about is centered around financial literacy, and I feel like my wife's very passionate about this. She's got a finance background as well, but she was particularly interested in supporting women with financial literacy. And I think what you talk about revolves around that as well, and knowledge being power. And there may be some women watching this right now that may be in a precarious situation and be wondering what types of things should they be aware of, what types of things should they investigate, what types of things would put them in a position where they would feel empowered, maybe even before the decision to leave their partner was made. Is there something that they could be starting to take a look at so that they feel like they're in a better position to make an empowered decision?
Absolutely. And I love, if I have women who are able to be authentic and have those conversations before the event actually happens, is amazing. I actually had a lady yesterday call me about this exact scenario, Kallum, and she said, "Look, I'm in the process of about to, walking out and starting my life again." She said, "However, I just want to have a chat to you about what do I need to do to set myself up powerfully."
Mm.
And she was in quite a good situation where she's working full time. She's got a very good salary, but she's not going to have much money left over from the settlement. And so we had a little chat about potentially how she can create extra wealth for her in that time. So she's got another business that she's starting up. So there may be some cash flow coming through that. Then we spoke about her parents may potentially be able to help her out with some funds to get her to, to build up that deposit. So she was just working out, okay, if I've got this amount of money, what could I potentially buy at and where could I buy? Because her thing is I don't want to walk out and not know where I'm going to be eventually. She really wanted to have that focus of still being in the Bayside suburbs. So we sort of had a look at, okay, well, this could be potentially where you could get to. And then how's that going to work in terms of the time frame and, where she's, how she just wanted that comfort before she actually, walked out and decided
You need
to.
a bit of
She was
security in the decision. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think for her, the biggest thing was that she could do it. She thought, and this is what I have with a lot of women is the mindset is that they think they can't do it. And so we went through the numbers together. She said, "Oh, my living expenses are so high." Well, they weren't. They were actually quite low, but in her mind, she thought her expenses were very high, which obviously is a big thing that banks look at. So I just did some servicing, just some basic numbers for her to get some comfort around what she could potentially borrow up to, and is she comfortable with those repayments, and what sort of purchase price she could go up to as well. And she too does have quite a bit in super. So we did have a bit of a conversation around that because she wanted to know what else she could do. So she was quite ready because it sounds like she's been planning it for a while.
All
I
right.
said, well, there's potentially, you've got some good dollars in super where you could potentially, if that's the right structure when you speak to a financial planner, you could potentially buy something in your super as well. So she left the conversation being very empowered, which is pretty amazing. So, so it was exciting for her to be able to see a vision of where she can get to.
And you find once you're able to map it out for someone, it gives them the confidence to say, yes, I can see myself doing this.
Exactly.
Are there any other ways? So life throws us curveballs all the time. Life will, flip the table upside down at a moment's notice from time to time. Over and above the financial advice, what's your strategy on, I guess, reassuring someone that everything's going to be okay when they come to see you for the financial journey that they're about to embark on?
Yeah. So one of the things that I really find that we do really well is actually explaining the process. So they're really comfortable with the process, where we look and how we structure the loans to give them that certainty. And we give them a lot of information around that. Um, and also just giving them the comfort of, like I said before, with a lot of clients, they can borrow a certain amount, but is that in their are they comfortable with those repayments? Because
Yeah.
often, we have clients that, they want to go out more, they want to do more holidays. So we make sure that we really speak to them and get them comfortable with how the actual repayments are going to look. And, so they know that they can actually, afford that per month and not home sitting on a beanbag every Saturday and Sunday, Friday night. They want to be able to go out and do things. So we give them some comfort around that. Obviously, because I've been in the industry for a long time,
Yeah.
my expertise makes a massive difference.
Sure.
And I think one of the things that, particularly since I've left the corporate space, I'm very authentic and very straight about, what can and can't be done. I'm very good at getting, answers quickly for my clients, whether they can do it now or not, so they're not left hanging, like I had a client the other day who had been with a major bank for 6 months and still didn't have an answer on their loan. 6 months.
Months.
And I was like, that is just if I don't have an answer at the maximum 2 weeks, I'm beside myself, not 6 months.
Yeah. That
So,
waiting the worst, isn't it? Because you
isn't
have
it? And they kept
spend
asking for more. Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
feel restricted.
And it was because he was self-employed. This was a male client of mine.
Yeah.
And it was because he was self-employed, they kept asking for more things. So he would go back to his account and get more things, have to pay more money, and he still didn't have an answer. So that's what's happening out there. Often going over the counter and dealing with these, particularly within the big banks now, you're not dealing with the same person every time. So he had the same thing. Like he had a credit person, then they left, then it was put onto somebody else. So we really love to have that relationship throughout the process. And then after settlement, if any of our clients need anything, I say call us rather than calling the call center, because they're all, whether it's bank A or bank B, they're all a disaster, those call centers. So
We were owner builders.
Well,
And
the interesting thing about
after you can.
there you go, mate.
No,
I
no,
was going to say the
I'll-
interesting thing about dealing.
Go for it, buddy.
I think there might be a bit of delay on mine. Yeah, I was going to say the service that you're providing, where you're actually able to see what's serviceable based on your current status, is quite empowering, because often when you do go to the banks, and I know this from talking to different people, but it can be just how you shade one box compared to how you shade the other boxes to whether or not they will allow you to move forward with that loan as well. So, having somebody that knows how to answer the questions in a way that demonstrates that you are able to service a particular loan would also be incredibly helpful as well. And I think being able to do that with an independent party, so you're not feeling like you're left standing there, with your pants down sometimes with the bank, because you give them all this information and you're like,
absolutely. That's a
it
good way
can
of
be quite a
explaining it.
vulnerable feeling for some people as well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it does feel like that for some people, because you give them, everything, including the kitchen sink for them to go through, and you don't want to do that all for naught. You want to make sure that it's all for something, and having someone go over it first, I think, is quite an amazing service.
Absolutely. And the other key point that I find with clients that have gone over the counter is that they may explain things in not the way that the bank likes them to be explained, if that makes sense. Like there's this conversation sometimes where the bank confuses the customer, and then the
Yeah.
customer is not answering it in the way it should be.
Mhm.
So, it's all about the storytelling, isn't it? When we put our deals together, we've got a story about the customer, everything's there, and our deals go through quickly. And, that's what we want to be able to, streamline them fast for our customer. So we have one lender we work with at the moment, and their turnaround time is 1 day.
Wow.
So, yep. So we have really quick turnaround times, and they're sharp with their rates as well, but they're very good for self-employed clients as well. So yeah, there is lenders out there that can, turn around deals quickly. But yeah, it's obviously just knowing where to put these deals.
And that's where your industry knowledge comes from. I'd like to backtrack a little bit more and find out a little bit more about you, Lou. You said that at an early age, your parents separated, and you saw your mum go through a particular learning in her life or journey. Is that where, roughly what age were you? And is that where you started to develop maybe a level of empathy or um, a level of emotional awareness within yourself that has sort of come full circle
Mm,
working in the industry that you're in now?
yeah, it's actually a really good question, and something that I've only just started thinking about in terms correlating it with me, selling. Yeah, it's only just because I had this conversation just last week with somebody else, and I was like, oh my goodness, yes, I actually, mum and I left the family home
Mm.
in 19 I think it was 1980, yes, 1980, and mum and I went to the Western District and lived with her parents up there on and off. Sort of mum came back and then we went back again. So I was in and out of school like at a tiny age.
Mm.
And then mum came back and then it wasn't any good, and then we left again for the final time. And yeah, we left and lived in my auntie and uncle's caravan for many months.
Mhm.
My mum was working out what she was going to do about finding a rental property, because at that time, mum didn't have any money to herself. She was a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
She was doing a little bit of work, but nothing. So we
In
basically,
1980, early 80s, things
yeah,
were so different back then.
yeah,
Also, the whole
absolutely.
notion of starting again, it wasn't really a thing. It was
No,
probably not spoken about. There was no specific help for parents or women who were starting again.
mm,
Wasn't spoken about. I
no,
never remember hearing about it until maybe the 90s even.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell a lot of my friends. I was embarrassed, Connor. So, yes, I remember, really not, telling. I told my close friends, but a lot of people would be saying, "What's going on?" And I just was really embarrassed because back then it wasn't really that, it seemed like obviously that was happening, but not to the same extent now at 40%, like you're saying, like it's massive. So yeah, so then mum and I then left the auntie's house, and then she got a rental property. And then mum wasn't able to buy a property until 1983. When her mother passed away, she got an inheritance. So she bought a little place in Emerald, which we've just recently sold. She was there for 40 years.
Queensland? Are we talking?
Emerald, Melbourne, in the
Okay.
hills, Dandenongs. Yeah, she was there for 40 years. We've just actually sold her home, and she's gone into care.
Oh,
And yeah, so she was able to buy a house, and she did remarkably well because she only ever worked part-time, and was able to buy a house with a little mortgage. And yeah, she paid that off over the time, and yeah, so that's where it all stemmed from. Now I look back.
Were you there encouraging her along the way? Did you find that you were
Definitely, because definitely,
Yeah.
I remember as quite young that I was quite confident, and
Mm.
I remember her saying to me, "I need a job," and I used to get the paper out. I was probably only 12 or 13, and I used to get the paper out and look for jobs, job advertisements. Mum, what about this job? And what about that job? And yeah, I remember it really helping her through a lot because she did have mental health issues as well. And so um, she was fragile, if that's the word you can use. She was, she was. But she's now 89 and she's amazing. I love her dearly. And she is just, she set herself up to be in a beautiful home in Camberwell, Melbourne, in aged care. And it is really possible to have what you want. At the time, you can't see it because there's all the emotion, and, there's a lot of upsets, and
Right.
yeah, there's just so many things you've got to do to understand. And, my mum left school in grade 6 because she had polio. She never went to high school. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So yeah, it's actually a really beautiful story, and yeah, it is really possible.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing as well.
So I just took the time to look up the actual.
Cal.
Stats, what is it?
My internet's a bit slow. I apologize. No, yeah, my internet's a bit slow. I apologize, guys, but it's around 33%.
33%.
In Australia right
Thank you.
now.
Good to know. Thank you.
All right. So when you went to high school, you left high school, you started dental nursery,
Dental nursing, yeah.
dental nursing, and at what point did you shift from that to pharmaceutical sales?
I think I was in the dental space for about 5 or 6 years, and then I went into the pharmaceutical space and was there for about another 10 years. I was selling a drug for stroke products, which was amazing opportunity. I got to travel the world. I went to different parts of the country, and which was really amazing.
Very cool.
And that just set me up powerfully for the sales side of things to get into my own business when I went into, because mortgages obviously is a sales role, but in pharmaceuticals, it was very structured about how you sell. There was a really good selling technique, which was really amazing, which set me up for getting into the mortgage space.
Why did you transition from pharmaceutical sales to mortgage space?
Yeah, I just had a friend say, "You should jump in with me, Lou, and come on board." And I was ready for something different because we were thinking of maybe having children. I was 30, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll come and work for you." And that's how I just decided to leave. And I'm so ever grateful for my role in that big group because I learned a lot because they had 5 sides to the business. So they had insurances, super, wills, other insurances as well, and the mortgages. So it really set me up powerfully. Not that I can talk about a lot of the things because I don't have the advice, but it really makes me understand, tax returns, flow of structures, entity setups, self-managed super funds. Like I learnt so much in that space, which was amazing. And then when I went out on my own into 2020, I was like, oh, I need those relationships. I need a super person. I need a wills person. So now I've formed my own community of referral partners because I find it's really important that I talk to my clients about, do you have a will? If you've got little kids, do you have a will? Do you have powers of attorney?
Yeah.
Like I talk about that with every client,
Are there like 5 key pillars, for example? Like you have to, here are the 5 things everyone should have after the age of 35 or something like that.
Exactly. exactly. And I talk to my women clients when they come to me. The first thing I say is you need to speak to a financial planner because who's your super nominated to? Now, most of the time it's still nominated to the ex-partner. That is so important. So I get them to speak to a financial planner, get them to have a super review and work out who they need to nominate their super through because that is missed in the market all the time. And it's interesting because when my clients are talking to the lawyers and maybe talking to a planner and then talking to the mortgage person, sometimes we're not all in the same space of educational piece. And I
Yes.
find that really frustrating. So I team up with the financial planner because we're obviously aligned, but sometimes the lawyer is not looking the same way that I feel that they should be looking for the client. Because there's so many things that they need to look at when, when they're putting everything into this basket and then working out how it's going to be, how it's going to be split. It's really important that they get the right advice. So yeah, I just love talking about that with my clients. As a broker, we don't have to talk about all those things, but I do because I've had the experience in, the group for such a long time. I think it's important, Yeah.
Yeah, Cal. Nikki has had, how many years? 15, 20 years in the financial space herself. I think that would be a great niche for Nikki to help women with financial advice along the way.
Yeah. It's such a good space and there's just not enough of it out there. And the other part to my story is, I had this vision to buy an office in McKinnon where I am right now. And I do a lot of goal setting. I wrote a gold card down and manifest that I'd have this property. And I think I settled on the property about 5 days out from my gold card that I write every 90 days. So I've settled on this beautiful property that's in my super fund.
Very cool.
And it's an amazing property because it's not like a normal office. I have women coming in here from all sorts of areas using my space. We have like a collaborative table out the front that they sit with me as well.
Mm.
And we're doing lots of functions here and really creating a safe space for women, particularly in the Bayside area. But, I just had a client come down from Sydney yesterday and she sat with me for the day. So really making it a beautiful space. And also going to be doing some things around breast cancer because I went through breast cancer last year. And so looking at some sort of support around that. I'm not sure how that's going to look just yet, but I would love to create some more awareness around that and just some more education around that as well.
Yeah. When you help a client, predominantly women, and you mentioned before you do have male clients, when you help someone through that difficult moment in their life and they can now start to see some sort of future for themselves and their family, what does that give you? What does that mean to you personally, on a personal level, when you can help someone on that level?
Oh, it's just so rewarding. Like I had a client, it's like so rewarding. I had a client the other day, probably a couple of months ago, actually. They just settled the other day. And she never thought she could buy a property because she only has a little bit of income. Anyway, she decided to buy it with her mum. And they have now settled on this amazing little apartment that is just, they are like, they are so excited. They never thought it was possible. And they've also got one of their other siblings now moving in with them and the family's back together. And like, that just moves me. Like, that is just amazing that I was able to support them through that. And when they came to me, they said, I don't think we can buy a property. And so we went through the numbers and it took a little bit of time. She was a referral through one of my daughter's dance school.
Hi there, this is Conor and Kallum from Connect Coaching. Hope you are enjoying the Unplugged podcast. Nothing lights us up more than seeing businesses thrive, especially in uncertain times. We have 32 combined years of doing nothing but mentoring and training businesses from around the globe in order to increase their revenue and thrive in uncertain times. So what we would like to do is share with you a little bit about what we've discovered over the last 32 years.
We've created this amazing business model called the Forever Business Model, and we want to give it to you for free. All you need to do is jump down into the description below. There's a link there called Steal Our Forever Business Model. Click on the link. There's a 9-minute video that you can watch where we unpack everything you need to know to implement it in your business right away.
And it was just lovely for her to be able to, after 20 years, she'd just given up. She thought she could never buy a property. So the mother and the daughter teamed up and they were able to buy a property. So it's just so rewarding. And yeah, like for them to be able to have something that's their little haven, whether it's, big, small or whatever. It's theirs.
Yeah.
And all she wanted to know was could there be any way possible she could leave something to her children? Her children now, they're going to be, starting to become adults.
Mm.
She thought, how can I have something for them? Because she didn't want them to go through what she had, not be able to buy a property for 20 years. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing there, Cal? You good?
Yeah, I think it's our new streaming experiment that we're running today, streaming it across a few different people's Facebook pages. That it's my internet's having a bit of trouble, and I think the weather's also contributing to it. But all in all, pretty good. This is a conversation that I really love, because it is something that I know my wife talks about a lot with with some of the women that she talks to. One of the things that I thought was interesting too is, and I'm not sure how much you can speak on this, but for those women who have opted to stay at home and take care of the kids and have not been contributing to their superannuation, that can get a little bit tricky too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that can be kind of a concern that a lot of women have when they're in those precarious situations when they are deciding whether to stay or they leave. They haven't been equipped or haven't been in a position to put money away into their super for their retirement. I'm not sure if you can speak on that too much, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, it's actually really interesting. So the average woman around 40 probably has about 100 grand in their super. And then the average woman around 50 probably has circa 190 in super.
Mhm.
So, for me, when I was at work, I think super kicked in when I was in about 28, 29. So I didn't have super for that as first, 10 years of working or whatever. So that's one of the issues out there why women, 50s, 55s haven't got enough super.
Mhm.
And I feel like there's a lot of misinformation around there about super, what you should do with super, how much you should be contributing. Can you put in extra? Can you put in extra if you get an inheritance? There's a lot of things you can do if you speak to the financial planner or accountant. Um, and I tell my daughter, who's 18, I said to her, can you put a little bit extra in every week with your wage? Now she's working, part-time at uni. Anyway, 8 weeks later, I followed it up and said, have you put any extra new super? And she said, yes, I have. I said, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. You take that on everywhere in your life. You're going to have the best life. So she's now putting in an extra, $15 out of her pay every fortnight.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, we need to get to with our, our younger, with our kids, educating them as well. But getting back to your point, Callum, about, women who are about to, leave the family home and don't have a lot in super, there is certainly things you can do to obviously contribute into super, but it really gets back to whether they're wanting to buy something in their own name or super, or where they want to get to. So, yeah, and that's where I work with the financial planner, just to map out what's the most important goal for them and where they want to get to.
Yeah, I think the important piece in what you just said is that there is options. There is light at the end of the
Yep.
tunnel. There are
Yep.
ways around it, and often when you're not equipped with that knowledge, it can be quite overwhelming for people.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
anyone who's listening now or in the future can always give you a call and have a chat about it, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I love talking about super. Super properties, buying in super. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was 18, I never even thought about putting a small amount of money away each week. It's absolutely incredible. We have 3 kids, 9 and 11. And when they were all born, we put $20 a week away into an account, and it
Yep.
was automatic. It's insane. That little bubble is at like 30 grand now after 11 years.
So
It's
good.
insane how it just compounds and adds up.
Yep.
And I think the educational component of that is when you are younger, you do live in the now a lot more. I found that next year I'll save up next year. I'll save up next year. I'll save up next year, and you never do. So
Absolutely. The way spend first. Spend, spend,
correct.
spend.
Yes, it's just the discipline of doing it really.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
guess when you're young and you think that you're going to be young forever and you'll always have time to make up for whatever you want, it's that tricky. It's not really tricky. It's just discipline and getting the right motivation to do that. So I guess if there is anyone listening, and they haven't started to put a small amount away, because the compounding interest. I think I've read somewhere with Warren Buffett, who obviously from the US and investments, you put away like even $1 a day, and you have that compounding
Yeah,
over 15, 30 years, and you have over $1 million in the bank, which
I
is
know.
just
It's crazy, isn't it?
crazy, absolutely crazy.
One of the things I wish that was more in schools, like my eldest daughter's just finished year 12 a couple of years ago. I wish that there was more an educational piece around budgeting and just money mindset, like, because
Not taught, is it?
no,
Well,
and now I just find with my 15-year-old, she thinks that money is just, tap, 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 tap. Like there's this, because there's not a lot, we don't have cash. Like I give her cash more now because I want her to understand, there's your $40 and you've got to work out your budget, because
and then when
otherwise
you do something, it becomes 30, and then 25, and you can
exactly,
physically see the lowering of the amount of money you have in your pocket. But I guess
exactly. And I think that's,
there's no
yeah,
measuring stick, is there?
no, I think that's a real missing. Like, I think there just has to be some, even if it was just a core subject for, even if it's just a term or something, to educate the kids, I think would be really good. Just to just to get them set up, what they need to do would, yeah.
One of the best things my mum did growing up was she gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I read that book, and at the age of 14 or 15, whenever I slowly read it, probably over 3 months, because I wasn't much of a read back then, it still gave me lessons that I'm probably learning, still applying today. What am I now? 45. So 30 years later, I'm still.
Wow, that is so good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It opens up your thinking, and then therefore, when someone talks to you about it, you become more interested in what they're saying. Have some sort of container to
Yeah.
absorb the knowledge that they're even talking about.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, there's a lot can be done in that area of education, and that's what I'm all about with my clients. Educating them and really caring and nurturing them to, support them with whatever they're dealing with, and get to the finish line in their time when they need it.
So, helping your clients step into their power again. I understand showing them the steps financially. On a more emotional level, how do you connect with them? And then, because it wouldn't be an overnight, all of a sudden they walk out of your office and they're like, "Oh yes, future's bright." I would imagine it would be an incremental seeding of future pacing, seeding of embedded commands, or using language in order to build their certainty within themselves and their empowerment and confidence back up, and then shifting their focus towards what is that silver lining over the horizon over there.
Yep.
How, for those listening who are thinking, how does that happen? Could you share a little bit about your strategy or are you aware of your strategy on how, on that process, over and above the figures, on
Yep.
the emotional level?
Yep. Yes. So one of the things that we do is, like, when a client calls us, we have initial conversation, just over the phone, just finding out initially what they, what they're dealing with.
Mhm.
And then from there, we'll book in a discovery call, which is normally about 15 minutes. Some clients want to come in. If they're local, they come in, which I love to see them in the office. And then in that 15-minute discovery call, sometimes it goes over, it doesn't 15
Sure.
minutes, but really finding out, their current situation, what they're dealing with, find out anything that might be a little bit, it could be an issue with what they're wanting to do with it in the lending space. Now, sometimes with women that are really raw in that situation, we don't get to that time. In the first conversation, we
Yeah,
don't get
right.
because that's too much for them to understand. So they might say, "Lou, what do you need from me so we can get to the next step?" Or we say, "This is what we need. We need to." And so then we'll ask for these set things. We just send them an email to say, "Look, if you can find out A, B, and C, then let's book in another call to go through that in your time." So then I've got some sort of basic details to work through with. And then at that next call, depending on where we need to get to in terms of urgency, we might have actual figures for them in terms of structures and products. Or sometimes it's more just talking about how they are going to be able to afford it, what timeframes they want to get to. And then from there, we probably have another call where we might get into some more solid structures and products and things at that time if they're ready to get to that space. But sometimes in between those certain phases, I am referring them off to speak to a financial planner. I said, "Look, you need to go and speak to a financial planner first, because there's things that I need to find out whether we can and can't do within, your structures, and or, they might be going off to see somebody about their wills, or whatever it might be that,
Yeah.
there's those little different, people that can support them along the way. And then, so it's a lovely process, and we take it very slowly, and everyone is different. But most importantly, we want everyone to leave with an understanding of where, what they can do for the next steps. And we work, the next steps can take, some clients, I've got clients that are with me for 2 years, and we talk quite regular. Like I had one the other day, she called me and said, Lou, I'm not going to get as much money. The house has gone down in value. What can we do? So then I said, okay, great. I said, can you talk now? I said, I'll do the figures with you now, because she was at
Oh,
court.
this is
I'm
really
like,
good. On the fly, you were
yep,
doing.
because she was at court. And I said, okay, just give me a second. I said, let's work through it slowly together. So then I was able to give her some figures straight away, because she had to go back in, and she wanted to know whether she could still, buy him out. So
Right. Okay.
sometimes there's the urgency, and sometimes there's not. It just all depends on the client.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. So
So-
supporting them along the way.
So beyond that initial crisis point that these women are facing, and you help them initially, you actually can also help and service them longer term, and give them continual support over a long period of
Absolutely.
time, and maybe work towards some bigger goals as well.
Absolutely. And I think what you're saying before, Connor, about, they're not confident at the start. So further down the track, they get more confident, because we start, talking to them about structures and where they're at. And, I'm just always praising these women, when they're going through these spaces of, what they're doing, how they're getting to the next phase. And, it's just amazing what they have to, go through. So really encouraging them to, work to the next steps, but really just supporting them in, having them really realize that it's truly possible.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I spoke about it before, the 5 pillars. I mentioned the 5 pillars, but in my head, I'm thinking the Avengers. Who should I have in my corner? I'm above the age of 40. Who should I have in my corner to help me to make sure that I'm set up for life? You mentioned a financial advisor. You mentioned maybe a lawyer for the wills. What's the all-star team that, and this is a big generalization, but maybe people over the
Yes.
age of 40 should or could look into to make sure that they're set up in all areas of their
Yep.
life for security and comfort later on in life?
So, first of all, a risk advisor. So somebody that can support you with looking at income protection, life cover, and trauma. Now, this is a big conversation. I love this conversation, but obviously I can't speak about it because I don't have the advice. But please get it checked, because a lot of the time we have cover that may not be correct. It may not cover you for the long term. It may only be a 2-year period where you need to be covered to age 65. So that's a big missing in the market. So a risk advisor to help you just have a review and make sure you got the right cover. Particularly, if you've got income protection and you had cover when you're on 50 grand and now you're on 200,000. You obviously need to get that increased. So that's important. And also wills. Obviously, wills and powers of attorney are so important. So that's very important to make sure that you have those in place, whether you're single or, with family, with kids, guardianship. Guardianship is the biggest thing why most people won't do a will. They don't know who they're going to leave their kids to. So it's quite extraordinary. But when I was in the wills, when I worked in that company, most people come and say, "Oh, we're going to do our wills, but we don't know who we're going to leave our kids to." Kids. So that is a massive thing in the market that, not sure where to,
And that uncertainty is enough to not move forward with it in the first place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So wills, a financial planner to check your super, obviously, or, mapping out things if you've got more than one assets, how that's going to look, and support you through the super part of it as well. And then also having a good accountant is so important as well, because, some accountants do different things to financial planners, but you need both, particularly if you're self-employed. You need a good accountant as well. So
And you have an all-star team that you rely on, and
yes,
okay, cool.
refer out to. Yeah.
All right. So
So-
if anyone's listening and they would like some advice on anything that Lou just mentioned, definitely reach out to Lou and she can point you in the right direction.
Yep, I'd love to talk to you anytime. Just reach out. We can connect, have a call, and see where we can support you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
So what's next for you, Lou? You've been doing this. You were in the mortgage space for 19 years. I guess you've now been the founder of Abundance and Beyond for the last 6 years. What's on the horizon for you next?
one of the things I've started to do, and I'm actually presenting at a gala ball soon, is getting on stage and really sharing my story. Because, I've got a lot to offer, given, I've gone through quite a few different phases in my life.
There's more to that story than I think we
Yeah.
can.
And so really, loving to share what we've been through as, as my husband and I with, what we had a business we had to liquidate and start again. So I've got so many things I can share about, and make a difference to, anyone out there that's, having difficult times and not sure where they're going to get to next.
It's about, there's resilience, which is your ability to bounce back. There's grit, which is long-term perseverance. And I just came across a term the other week I learned about, which is called anti-fragile, that the more we are put under stress, the stronger we become. It seems like you have gotten stronger with every challenge you've had along the way in life. Why do you keep rising to the challenge? What is it within you that you feel you take these opportunities, and instead of using them as a reason why you can't, you've obviously used them as a reason why you can, and this is part of your story.
Yeah. I think
makes you tick to keep looking forward?
I know my dad, he was very hard on us, but I know he gave me a lot of, built me up and really had a lot of confidence when I was growing up. But I've done a lot of work. I was a bit of a course junkie for many years, self-development things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of self-development, Tony Robbins, Lama, a few different things.
Nice.
However, getting into the space with She Evolve Collective has where my whole shift has really changed in the last 3 or 4 years. And it's all about really living into the wish fulfilled. And it's a lot of Bob Proctor work. I don't know if you've heard of Bob Proctor, but
Bob Proctor's awesome.
yeah, not everyone's heard of him, but his work has truly transformed me so much, particularly last year going through cancer. It was just to keep focused and keep in the now and thinking about where I want to get to, visualizing, has been a massive.
90% of the people listening will have read Bob Proctor's work. They know Tony. They've been with Tony Robbins. They are well into personal.
Yeah.
So that's been a big driver for you along the way, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Because I'm so present to, particularly when I was in business, and you can only get to so far doing it on your own. So then one of the biggest things I learned quite early on was to get partnership with everything. The things that I hate, to get partnership. I don't like doing the bookkeeping anymore, so I outsource that. But, getting partnership on where I want to get to my goals, like having a mentor side by side me, has made a massive difference. She has just got me to a level and seen me as somebody that I never thought was possible, because we talked about early on about how we have stories around things.
Yes.
We all have stories about who we are.
Yeah.
And that has been a massive thing for me, really tapping into, who I actually are and seeing it as who I am as well. Which has been amazing. So yeah, that's probably been the biggest thing, having a mentor.
You had those guides along the way to help you, those angels in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cal,
any final questions for me, buddy?
I just think that I just want to thank you, Lou, for the work that you do, because I think that it's a problem that gets overlooked, and often the people facing it are all alone, and they're by themselves going through it. And I think that having someone to turn to, someone that's equipped with the knowledge that can help them quickly, because like you said, often it's time sensitive and you need to get these things done as quickly as possible so that you can look after yourself, you can look after your kids, and you can continue to move forward. So yeah, it's just a really big thank you from me to you. I hope the people that are listening, there are any women out there that are needing this type of help, or they're in a position where they're wanting to seek this type of information, that they do reach out and they get in contact with you to talk about it.
Thanks, Kallum.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone second, absolutely what Cal said, and thank you so much. We bring on guests who are making a difference in the world, and love to understand what makes them tick. And because you could still be in pharmaceutical sales, you could still be in the dentistry industry. You've chosen to do meaningful work that actually makes a difference in people's lives. And I think there's a special caliber of person or that has a particular backstory that when they find themselves in life, it's almost like they are drawn to their true calling, and helping people make more money or be financially stable in their life is the vehicle, but underneath that is the doing good work in the world. And it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much for that. I've learned a lot from this, particularly with the financial advice, and I'm mind reading, complete generalization, so could be well off, but I bet there's a lot of people who are listening and out there in society who just don't know what they don't know. So they're unconscious incompetent. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And if any of today has triggered a thought or thought, maybe should I look into this? Just reach out to Lou. I'm sure you'll be more than happy to have a 15-minute call with them to
Absolutely.
help
Yeah.
uncertainty in their life.
Absolutely. Thank you
Brilliant.
so much. It's been amazing to be on here today.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching the Unplugged podcast with Kallum and Conor from Connect Coaching. Hope you loved this guest this week as much as we did. Cal?
What we wanted to remind you of is that if you wanted to steal our forever business model, which is perfect for all sorts of businesses around the world, to start to build extra revenue in your business right away, get instant access by clicking on the description and going into the link below, watching the 9-minute video where we unpack everything. See you next up.